Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TF1 show. I'm still a bit shell-shocked, I'm not going to lie, after that Grand Prix. I think it was an amazing one. And to cap, I guess, an amazing race weekend, an amazing race, I have the amazing YouTuber and, it turns out, poet, Steph, from All About StefF1, joining me on this week's race review to talk about what was a fantastic Turkish Grand Prix in my mind. Steph, thank you so much for taking the time and for joining on the podcast today.
Thanks for inviting me. I feel honored.
I mean, I'm honored to have you on. And I guess after we've complimented each other to death, let's maybe, before we get into the race, let's get the admin out of the way. So first things first, if you like this channel, if you like my voice, if you like my skin, if you like my eyes, if you like my smile, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, click on the bell for notifications so you never miss an upload. And maybe, at the end of the episode, leave a little comment and let us know what you thought about the Turkish Grand Prix and whether you agree with us or not. So that's step one. Step two is that I'll be linking all of Steph's, channel. I'll link a channel and a Twitter in the description. So please go and give her a sub and a follow because she is so entertaining and she has really, really good content and insight. There we go. So admin over. Steph, we can get into the race. What did you think?
Yes, let's get into it. I've been saying, I thought the beginning was not it for me. I was watching and I was like, where is the interesting overtakes? Like, everyone was just spinning off and then people were passing. And I was like, this isn't interesting. It's just like an ice skating rink. I was like, this isn't what I want. But then the Lord answered my prayers and it got good. So when everyone started switching on to the inters, that's when it really livened up, and from then on it was a good race, I think.
I think drivers were just scared to go off the racing line initially to do some sort of overtake. So you can see with Max and Seb at the beginning, and obviously with Max and Perez later, which we'll talk about as well, and Lewis and Seb, like, drivers didn't really want to go down the inside because they knew they were just probably going to lock up and skate into the barrier. So maybe, Steph, if since this is your first time, and for everybody that's watching this or listening to this for the first time, how we typically do these race reviews is we talk about each team sort of down the order that they finished. Obviously, we'll spend some more time with specific teams compared to other teams, depending on how much there is to discuss. But let's talk about Mercedes first, given that they are now, firstly, Constructors champions, and now also with Lewis, he's Drivers champion for the 7th time, equaling Michael Schumacher. Lewis was emotional. I was emotional. Yeah. Steph, I'm pretty sure you were emotional.
Yeah, I was emotional.
So maybe put Lewis's performance today into context. What did you make of what he did and what he achieved today?
Do you know what? The Mercedes was looking so weird this weekend. Like, it wasn't looking like the Mercedes we've seen throughout the entirety of 2020, because that Mercedes has been extremely dominant. So coming into it, he was on the back foot a little bit when you think about it, because he wasn't on pole, and that's strange. He wasn't in second, which is also strange. So he was set up for kind of like a bad weekend, and I know Lewis is a good wet weather driver, so I was like, I know he will have a good performance, and I know he will perform well on the Sunday. And then at the beginning of the race, I was like, Lewis, what are you doing? Everyone left, right, and centre was literally overtaking him, and I was like, Lewis, like, I think you're the best wet weather driver on the grid. What's going on? Why are you slipping and sliding everywhere? Like, find your grip, because I know he's capable of...
Get a grip, Lewis. Get a grip.
Grip, girl. But yeah, it was so confusing. But he came back, and was it like 30 seconds that he won from Perez 31. In the end? Yes. So that's a pretty hefty margin. And we thought it was a big margin in Portimao when he won from like 25 seconds. So he's just proving that, yeah, he is the best wet weather driver, because he was the one that, you know, kept it on the track. He extended his lead for such a long period of time. So I think he did an amazing job in the end, even though it started off a little bit rocky. And I don't think it's actually sunk in right now that he's actually a 7-time world champ. I don't think it's making sense to me right now. He's actually equaled the record. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan here that just commented. I think something about today was just so special, throughout. And you saw with his reaction as well, how special it was. And I felt this race was so amazing. I don't know. I felt this race was sort of like a little capsule of what makes him so good. The fact that, as you said, he is such an amazing wet weather driver. And you think back to Silverstone 2008 and, Germany 2018, and he's had so many amazing wet weather performances. The fact that he was able to manage his tires so well at the end, his intermediates were over 40 laps old by the time he finished the race. That's another strength of his. He spoke about how he learned from his previous mistakes, and the fact that he was able to look back at some of the most defining moments in his career back when he was younger, and what he learned from it, and was able to actually apply it today to end up in such a dominant victory. And I just thought this race was amazing. I thought this was one of his best performances of all time, just because of, with everything that came along with the fact that he won with 31 seconds. He equaled the all-time record for World Championships won. He destroyed his teammates. He outperformed all of the challenges that he had. All of the challenges, he outperformed Max, he outperformed Charles, he outperformed Seb, his contemporary. It was just one of those sort of complete performances from him. And I think it's absolutely incredible. I can't give him enough compliments for how well he did today. I thought, and Sebastian Vettel actually said it best in the press conference at the end. He said this wasn't Hamilton's race to win. It wasn't his race to win. He started 6th, was sitting around in 5th place for the first half. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, he wins by more than half a minute, which is,
that
to
makes
me,
no
just
sense
incredible.
to me. Yeah, that's actually insane. The fact that he won by such a margin. I think that's what made Portimao as well. So I know we're not talking about Portimao and I keep bringing it up, but that's what made that one so special as well, because he had that period of time. He wasn't just he was leading from start to finish. There was he had to actually fight for this one. So it's not like it was handed to him. He didn't just have a super easy car to just jump into, qualify on pole, and then, just cruise to the race victory. That wasn't how today worked. It clearly wasn't easy for him. And we saw that in the opening laps. And I think that that's why it seemed so special as well, because it wasn't like he was just gifted the win. And I didn't think he was going to win, and I thought he was going to come. I didn't even know if he was going to get on the podium, and I thought he was going to come. And how is that a celebration for your 7th world title? You want to stroll in, you want to be on the podium, but I didn't think that was going to happen. And I was like, okay, well, how is this going to play out if he comes home in 6th position and it's like, oh, cool, you're a 7-time world champ. Where's the hype? So I'm kind of glad that he managed to bring it home and win, because it just made the clinching of the title even that much more sweet.
100%. I think one of his best wins. And then for contrast, right? Because we always need a yang for every yin. We have to talk about our own prima ballerina in Formula One, Valtteri Bottas. Spun 6 times.
Spinala.
Was on the struggle bus from lap 1 to lap 59, or I don't know, I can't remember how many laps there was. What is he going to take away from this weekend?
Do you know what? When the race finished, I literally looked and I was like, Bottas, okay, he's not even in the points. And I burst into laughter, because I remembered last year, do you know when Bottas was like, I have a secret plan that I'm not telling anyone about how to beat Lewis Hamilton in 2020? And I just thought, how's that going for you? How's that working out for you?
Shame. No.
It's so funny.
It's not gone well for Valtteri. Let's just say that. And he has to say it, right? But then after the race, he's like, no, he'll get him next year. And I just got this wave of deja vu come over me. And I was like, is this the fourth time in a row we've heard this? And it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
No, it's so funny. Was it after the race as well that he was like, Lewis was just better this year? I was like, he's been better every year.
And 2020 and 2018 and 2017. No, I feel bad for him because obviously, like, it could literally not have gone worse for him today. Like, if you had to think how Valtteri Bottas would not want a race to go, this is going to be the template going forward. And you know what I find this also really ironic is, like, people, the commentators kept saying, Valtteri Bottas, who's this rally driver, he loves these conditions. He's going to do so well in these conditions. 6 spins later, like, I don't really know what to say. And I saw a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat moment.
Conspiracy corner.
Beef's conspiracy corner shout out. That Merckx just fire Bottas and put Perez into the second seat next to an Alpha. I could get on board with that. Means my boy Alex is safe and warm, cocooned in his Red Bull seat without Perez going and sniffing around. We can have Bottas. You can have a wonderful seat in Formula E.
No. Maybe Bottas not going to Formula E.
You can go. I'm sure, like, Susie Wolf will call in a favor from Toto and get him there. There at Venturi, Valtteri Bottas, Venturi Racing Partnership. I figured this out. We want Checo and Hamilton in Mercedes next year, and then Checo can bugger off end of next year when George Russell gets promoted. Valtteri Bottas can go to Venturi. Alex Albon can sleep soundly at Red Bull, and the world will be at one. That's my plan. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I don't like that plan. I, for one, want Alex Albon to go back to the little happy life at AlphaTauri. He can live his best life with Pierre Gasly. They can, be happy. They can fight. They can be competitive, but still nurtured. So that's where Alex needs to go. Perez, just hop in the Red Bull. Give Max a little bit of a run for his money. Max needs a kick up his arse because he hasn't had one this season. And let's just yeet Bottas out and let's bring in George Russell early.
That is not. I'm not against that suggestion.
Okay, good.
So I think we'll compromise and we'll land on that.
Okay.
I mean, we've spoken about Red Bull now. Let's talk about Red Bull next because there's much to discuss in my mind. I have many thoughts and feelings about Red Bull and how it all turned out for both their drivers. Now, let's talk about Alex first. So my relationship with Alex Albon has been well documented on this channel. I think it went not bad this weekend. I think he was fast, which is more than what we could say for most of the race weekend so far this year. He was on pace. I think he was at least keeping Max honest. First 75% of this race, he was good. I was very impressed with him. Like, he dealt with the conditions well, was fast when he had to be, was in the running for a podium, if not a race victory at one point. And then, Valtteri Bottas' influence does permeate across the grid, as we know. And Alex had a bit of a spinny moment. But in his defense, he did shout at Red Bull for like 3 laps before the spin happened and told them his front tires have nothing left. And that's why I'm inclined to excuse the spin. Also, compared to his teammate who had multiple incidents. The thing is, let's maybe talk practical. Let's be practical here, right? Okay. I think we can both agree. Red Bull really, 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 really want to make it work with Alex. I thought after Imola and after Portimao and everything that happened, I thought they would have at this point have gone like, you know what, Alex, deuces, it's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun, but, you know, enjoy your life. Where they haven't. They're still going and saying, no, they'll decide at the end of the season. And they're just waiting for Alex to give them something to latch onto, to give them an indication that he can continue there. And I sort of almost want to say that this weekend might have been that weekend. You know, if you ignore the spin, other than the spin, which many people span, in his defense, I don't think you can say the spin was an Alex issue. I think it was just a stuff happened issue. If you ignore the spin, this was a good weekend for Alex all around. This was, if I was Red Bull, I'd look at this and go, you know what? There could be something there. Now, obviously, before I dig myself any further into a hole, tell me what you think.
Okay, no. Right, you make a good point. I think this was one of Alex's most successful weekends of the year. He was decent in qualifying, very, very close to Max. He wasn't years and years away. He was decent in the race. He was there. The only reason is just... Do you know what? I don't know how I feel about him. Because it's like...
I know how I feel about him.
I know how you feel about him too. I don't want to slag off Albon because I love him and also you love him.
It's fine. So I'm emotionally prepared for slagging off because I've been dealing with this for the whole of 2020.
Yeah, Red Bull want to make it work. They are cutthroat, and the fact that they haven't cut his throat yet makes me think like he's got a chance. I don't think they want to get rid of him. I think they know he's got potential, but I also think they know that they're responsible for a lot of what's gone wrong with his season. So I feel like they're trying to cover their own backs by giving him the opportunity to get better. Yeah, you're right. The spin, everyone was spinning, so it's not too bad. Let's be honest, Max Verstappen did way more spins, but I feel like Max was pushing it a lot harder. The only reason why I'm upset is because I know that Alex was capable of a podium at the very least today. And I just think that he took that. I don't even know what happened to him after the spin. Like, I don't recall what happened. I know Max had a bunch of stuff going on, so when I looked at the results, I was like, well, how did Verstappen get ahead of Albon? Because
so I can fill in the gap. So what basically happened?
Please.
What basically happened is similar to what happened to Stroll and to Max to an extent. That second set of intermediates just didn't work with the track. Like when they put on the intermediates, when they put it on, they just had no pace. Like Max went fast after that second pit stop or third pit stop for him, for like 2 laps. And then after that, he couldn't even catch who was ahead of him.
Makes sense.
Like, so it was just one of those weird tire things that happened at the end of the race. And curiously, you know, Max overtook Alex on track after pitting. So Max was going fast for those 2 laps, overtook Alex. Well, first spun again and then recovered and then overtook Alex.
Classic Max.
And then he couldn't pull away. So I think like Max and Alex finished about a second apart after, correct me if I'm wrong. People in the comments go and lambast me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it was just a weird tire situation. So I don't know. I'm inclined
to agree with you more that it was a fairly successful weekend for Albon, because I think that the conditions were just so difficult that it's difficult to say if he hadn't spun, he would have been fine, because he could have spun then further down the line, or, you know, I don't know. It's just all was very jumbled up as well. It's not who we expected to kind of be in the top 10. Like, where was Bottas, the second Mercedes? So for him to, you know, kind of hold his own throughout the treacherous conditions, the treacherous racetrack, he did a pretty good job. And if we're comparing spins, he had a lot less than Max. So
yeah, let's talk about Max. Now, I have lots of opinions. Max fans are going to be cross with me probably at the end of this. But let's talk about qualifying first, right? So I think he was far and away the fastest guy yesterday.
100%.
Like, I don't think there's any doubt that Red Bull and Max, they were at one. World peace was busy being solved by Max Verstappen while driving around in his Red Bull on Saturday. And then the intermediate tires came and wrecked Max's pole chance, and he was very angry, sitting behind the trash can. Then today, I think there was some spillover from yesterday, to be honest. I think he decided to himself he was going to will this victory to happen. He will not stand for anything other than a victory. And I think that led to his downfall. And I think it showed his inexperience, because that overtake on Sergio Perez was not on. I don't understand why I decided to go and force the issue. Perez is a wily old fox. He's not going to allow you as Max Verstappen to just walk past on a random piece of track that it's just not going to happen. And then Max had his spin, flat spotted his tires, and that essentially compromised his race since then. Obviously, he had another spin later.
And another one. And another one.
No, did he have 3?
Wait, Max?
Yeah, I thought he had 2.
Max was spinning all over the place, mate.
Doesn't matter. He was flat spinning all over. It wasn't a good race for Max.
No.
And I think sort of the point that I want to get to, Steph, is I think today's race highlighted that Max still has a bit of a road to walk.
Yeah.
Before we can call him, firstly, a driver as good as Lewis Hamilton, and secondly, to say that he can compete for a world championship year in, year out. I think he has a couple of things to learn still, and we saw today, in my mind at least, where he still needs to improve. And it's little things, right? It's not big gaps in his ability.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that he should have been more patient. He should not have let qualifying affect him in the way that he did. He should have been less emotional. And if you look at Lewis didn't make one spectacular or dramatic pass during the whole race. He was just patient, biding his time, admiring Sebastian Vettel and how well he was doing. He even admitted it afterwards. He was looking at Vettel in front of him thinking, look how well my boy Sebastian is doing.
I love the two of them. They're just
He's
so
in
cute.
the way, but like Lewis was just appreciating, in 2020, Sebastian Vettel running in the top 5. So I think Max has a couple of things to learn from Lewis. I don't know what you think. What did you think about his performance?
I think Max was angry, very, very angry since qualifying. And I thought he started off the race angry. And I don't think that's any way to drive, especially in conditions like this, because if you're driving angry, you're not completely focused. And when you're not completely focused, bad things are going to happen. And by bad things, you're going to have a lot of wheel spin off the line, you're going to spin, and blah, blah, blah. You're going to drop down from where you ought to be. So I think his issue stemmed from the fact that he was angry and he was frustrated, and that was coming across on track. So he was parked behind Vettel for a large portion of the race, and as he was parked behind Vettel, I could see him having a little drift, and I think he was getting so frustrated, stuck behind this Ferrari car, which is 6th in the constructors right now, and Red Bull is 2nd. So he's like, I deserve to be ahead of you, move out my way. And I genuinely think that that's how he went across the entire weekend. He was like, he reminded me a little bit of Senna, in terms of he felt like he was entitled to the win this race. That's the kind of vibe that I got from him, that he genuinely believed that he was going to win this race and that this was his race to lose. And I do think it was as well, because Max and the Red Bulls are the constructor and the driver who are going to be able to capitalize on these weekends when Mercedes aren't on top form. So really, Max messed up this weekend, and I think he will be kicking himself for a long time to come.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should learn from this weekend. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he's not too arrogant to think that he can't still improve, because he can still improve, in my mind at least. In my expert opinion, as a multi-world championship winning Formula One driver. So I think that's sort of Red Bull's lot. Not really much else we can say for those two. Now let's talk about another fallen star, another bird that got his wings clipped. Our poor rich son, Lance Stroll, who did so well yesterday to, prove the haters wrong, to silence the critics, to prove his worth. For what? For what, Steph? What was all of that worth?
Do you know what?
P9?
I'm really proud of... Yeah, P9. He ended up in P9. And do you know what? I'm really proud of him. I think he did a good job. I do think that he was unlucky with the tyre situation towards the end because he was doing great. He extended that lead so quickly at the beginning of the race and he was so effortlessly sitting in the front. He was making no mistakes. Granted, it's because he could see well because there was no one in front of him. But it would have been so easy to crack under the pressure and just fold, spin, just like anybody else on the track was doing. But he held his cool, he kept calm, and I do think that he drove with a lot of maturity and intelligence, and he was very, very sensible, and it should have translated to a much better result for him, which is it's disappointing that he didn't manage to get the result that he would have been wanting, and I'm sure it's a bitter pill to swallow that Perez ended up on the podium
in second,
yeah, so I'm sure he'll be kicking himself, but I actually think that this is a really positive weekend for him. He's had a run of very, very bad weekends since he lost out on the win in Monza. So he's had to come back from a lot of troubles and difficult times for him. He had bloody Rona in the middle of all of that. So he has now had to recover from quite a lot in the last few weeks. And I think putting it on pole, leading the race, there's a lot of success that came out of this weekend for him. And I want him to look at the positives rather than the negatives.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's one of those stop the count situations where if you stop the count halfway through the race, he would have been sitting pretty right in front. And I think it's literally probably a couple of laps where I think took too much out of his second set of intermediates that put paid to his race, or his first set of intermediates. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think he pushed too hard initially when everybody put on their intermediate tires. I think he pushed too hard in that first bit of the stint, and I think Perez and Vettel and Hamilton and Albon, all of them sort of held back a bit because they just weren't going that quickly at the beginning of that first intermediate stint. And Stroll was just building this massive lead, and we were all looking at him, agog. Couldn't believe the speed this Canadian man was carrying at Turkey, and I think. It just he wore his tires out too quickly. I think his tires were dead, and then obviously Perez and Albon and Vettel, that whole train caught up with him, and then the track wasn't ready really for slicks, which is I think what everybody wanted to do initially was hold out until they can go to slicks. Realized, well, he's losing too much time, so he's going to have to go onto another set of inters, and then what ended up happening is the track wasn't really ready for inters as well. For new inters at least, because we saw with Alex, saw with Max, and then with Lance Stroll to the extreme, that the second set of inters just didn't work. And that's essentially what put paid to his race, because we got, Hamilton and Perez that just stayed on those inters, saved the tires like they usually do, and, ended up finishing first and second. So it's a sad one for Stroll. But I hope, as you say, he takes some heart. And I also do think at least he's proven that he's not somebody there that got there by accident. I think he deserves to be there. I think, if you look at the 20 best drivers on the grid, I think there are a couple of other drivers that we can make an argument for, going before Stroll needs to go. So I think that's a good outcome for him. And let's maybe give a quick word, to Perez, the man without a seat, putting in the big performances, race after race, another second place, another podium for him. What do you make of Sergio?
Do you know what? I'm really impressed by how these drivers without seat are driving. So when Nico Hulkenberg just kind of jumped in, the kind of drive that he demonstrated while he was on track. And I'm getting the same thing from Sergio Perez. And I just wish that I'd had this same fight in him last year or this year. And I think he's a great driver. He's one of the best drivers on the grid. I rate Sergio Perez really, really highly. But I think I've seen a completely different side to him since the news has come out that he is going to lose his seat. How has a guy who's just got onto the podium? So even with Nico Hulkenberg, you can kind of argue why he's not in Formula One because he doesn't have this podium. But Checo just took that car all the way to second place, and he doesn't have a seat. I'm honestly confused as to why F1 teams aren't snatching him up. And if Red Bull doesn't, I will be very, very concerned for their...
They're going to.
Do you actually not?
I don't think they're going to.
Beef's conspiracy corner again.
Yeah, twice in one episode. No, I'm going to be honest with you, Beth. I think the interview that Perez gave this weekend, I think indicated that he also doesn't think I don't think Red Bull is giving him enough of an indication to show to him that they're going to go with him. I think they're going to go with Albon, except if Albon has a catastrophic next 2 races. If Albon has a catastrophic next 2 races, I think they're going to go with Hulkenberg. I just have this feeling. I don't think Perez is going to get a seat. And it's a travesty. Like, don't get me wrong. I was fuming when they announced that Vettel was replacing Perez. I was so mad because, look, and we just spoke about how well Stroll is doing. But I'm sorry. If you had to, as an objective analyst or as an objective observer of Formula One, you have Lance Stroll on the one hand and Sergio Perez on the other hand. You need to make a choice as to which one of the two you want to keep as your driver. To me, Perez is obvious. I'm sorry, it sucks for Lance because, you know, as we see, he does have redeeming qualities. But Perez is he's one of the best on the grid. I can't say Lance Stroll is one of the best drivers on the grid. I cannot say that with all of the information that I have seen up to now. And that's basically why I was so upset. And I think Perez is going to be screwed out of a seat. I think everybody's too busy with their own interests, and Perez is going to be, with musical chairs. When the music stops and everybody sits down, Perez is going to be the one standing up, even though he's one of the best musical chairs players around.
Yeah. I don't understand. Do you know what I don't understand? I think Perez could very easily go to Haas. He's got backing. He's got money. So, I don't know what Haas are going to do. I mean, I think they're going to go with Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher. But if you think about Mazepin and Perez, at least with Checo, you've got an experienced Formula One driver who brings money also. Whereas with the other side of it, with Nikita Mazepin, you have an inexperienced F1 driver that brings money. So which one would you rather have? Because I know I'd rather go for the experienced driver.
I agree 100%. And yet here we are.
Here we are.
Don't know. I can't deal, Steph. I can't deal with the mess of the driver market. It's literally the thing that upsets me probably the most out of anything in F1 is the driver market. But let's move on quick. The one other team I want to discuss in depth before we move on to, we can maybe combine some of the others, is Ferrari. Now, Ferrari, don't know, biggest comeback since Lazarus, if you compare them, with what happened on Saturday. I don't know how Ferrari managed to get a P3 and a P4, but they somehow did. Spurred on maybe by Sebastian Vettel's magnificent first lap and Leclerc's really, really good strategy on the intermediate tires. But Seb Vettel back on the podium for one last hurrah at Ferrari before he departs, with probably 2 middle fingers pointing at Maranello. Or what do you make of Seb and his performance this weekend?
Matteo Binotto wasn't there, was he?
Conspiracy corner again.
Conspiracy corner!
3 times in one episode.
3 times. I mean, we do be obsessed with the conspiracies today, but seriously, it just seems like, I don't know, Ferrari had this new lease of life this weekend, and they actually had a brain. I was so confused as to how Ferrari were the first to come into the pits, because Ferrari are not the first to do anything ever. They are literally copycats. They are sheep, not shepherd. And
100%.
so when they came in, I was like, whoa, what are you thinking? But it actually really benefited them. And I think I saw Ferrari this weekend as a bit like Red Bull. So Red Bull are always the ones that are kind of doing the strategies that are a bit outside of the box. They're always keen to make strategic calls that could give them the upper hand. Whereas that's what Ferrari did. They really said, I have nothing to lose. I might as well pit Leclerc. And it really worked. And everyone else kind of followed suit right after that. So I think
to be honest though, Steph, like Charles was pootling around in 15th place.
True.
Like, not going anywhere, being dreadful. Like I was watching
nothing
Charles
to
like
lose.
this. Charles like this. And then you're right. Ferrari had nothing to lose. They were like, let's put Charles on intermediates and go like this. And it worked. It worked twice because they did it again with the second set of intermediates. So, no, it was, can you believe it? 2020, Ferrari making sound, strategic decisions.
I know.
Can't believe it. I mean, really, really impressed with them. Really, really impressed with Seb. I really like the fact that Verstappen couldn't get past, Hamilton couldn't get past, Albon got past, just whisper. But, he really was driving well defensively, I thought, because I think his car wasn't as fast as the Red Bull or the Mercedes during the first half of the race, and they couldn't get past. He was just putting his car in the right places, being fast where it had to be fast. So that was really good from Seb and a really deserved podium in my mind. And Charles was so fast in the middle of the race and at the end of the race, man, just overtaking left, right, and center, getting past Max, getting past Seb, getting past Perez, and then Steph, what happened next?
Oh my god, I don't even know. I'm gonna have to watch the last lap again because I don't even know what happened. I just think he ended up going a little bit wide. Was it?
Up. No, he was literally ahead. He was ahead of Perez already. He made the overtake stick ahead of Perez, ahead of Vettel, and then I think he just forgot that the last couple of corners on that track with semi-slick tires are very, very wet. And he braked too late and he locked up and he went deep. And, past came Sergio and Seb and it was done. And he was very, very angry. He was an angry man. Shout out to Aiden.
Yeah, he was.
He was an angry, angry man after the race. And I sort of get why. But I do think with a bit of distance from this race, he'll look back and say, I did okay. Didn't do bad.
He was when you look at it, it's a really, really positive result for Ferrari because we've not seen Ferrari up there since last year in third and fourth. Like, anyone would think this is 2019 because the Ferraris do not belong in third and fourth. So it is a positive result for Ferrari, and I'm really, really happy for them. Charles is obviously going to be kicking himself because he threw it away at the last minute, and it's obviously he's going to blame himself. It's obvious he's going to put a lot of pressure on himself and put a lot of blame on himself as he tries to move forward from this. I just feel really, really bad for him.
I love how he said on the radio.
Race.
I love how he said on the radio afterwards. He was literally like, I am stupid, even more stupid than what I was in Baku. I was like, we love continuity over the timeline, right?
It's a storyline.
Yes. No, I thought that was really cool. But anyways, I think all in all, a positive performance for Ferrari.
Yeah.
You can't take that away from them. A third and a fourth place. They're back in the championship fight for third. Can you believe it?
I know.
What a time to be alive. Let's quickly go and talk about some of the other teams in the championship fight for third. And we don't have to go into too much detail with them because, I mean, there's not really that much to say, except let's talk about McLaren and Renault together. So McLaren, bad qualifying. Renault, good qualifying, on balance. McLaren,
good race.
Good race.
Renault, bad race. It wasn't bad, but...
It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. Carlos Sainz, again, being the wet weather king we know he is, drove all the way from, he started 15th? Drove all the way from 15th to 5th in a McLaren, which I think is a really, really good and impressive performance. Lando came home in 8th, if I'm not mistaken. Again,
Yep.
he did well, especially the second part of the race. First part was a bit of a struggle. Ricardo was sort of in amongst it at the beginning. He was just behind Hamilton, the opening stint. But then he remembered he was in a Renault, and the Renault isn't good with high downforce. And then, he returned back to form and came home in 10th place. Ocon, and what's your feelings towards Ocon? Are you an Ocon apologist or an Ocon hater? I'm
a friend of Ocon. And
Good.
I've always been a friend of Ocon. I preferred Ocon to Perez. I don't know. There's something about Perez that I don't particularly like. Even though I think he's a great driver, I was always team Ocon when the Force India stuff was going down.
Me too.
I wanted Ocon to do really well this year. And I'm trying to continue to defend him, but I'm not sure how much I can continue doing that because...
No, I'm sorry. He did well this race. Firstly, he was P3.
He didn't finish in the points.
He was P3 at the first corner, got punted off by Ricardo through no fault of his own.
It was a right racing incident.
Had a puncture, so pootled around on the first lap, had to pit for weights, then had to pit again. So he had one extra pit stop, still finished P11 in front of both AlphaTauris, both the Williamses, just behind Ricardo, who was running P5 for the opening stint of the race.
Do you know what I will say on Ocon as well is he and Bottas both got spun around at the beginning of the race.
He finished ahead of Bottas.
And he finished ahead of Bottas.
Way ahead of Bottas.
The wrong Mercedes, there's the wrong driver in the Mercedes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, bad weekend for Renault. Okay weekend for McLaren. All things. Carlos Sainz, I really rate him. I don't know what you think about him, but I rate him as a driver. So excited to see him at Ferrari next year. It's going to be really fun. Let's talk about who can we talk about next? Let's talk about AlphaTauri. Now, I don't think we're going to talk about them for a very long time because
what is there to say?
I think I've seen KGB agents be more conspicuous than AlphaTauri in this race. Like CIA spies that live undercover for years and years. They have made more of an impact on my life than what AlphaTauri did today.
I didn't see an AlphaTauri car at all.
Not once. This whole race, didn't see them at all. So I think that's all we can say. They started outside of the points. They finished outside of the points.
Irrelevant, really.
Irrelevant. As is Haas, except for, I think Magnussen had a retirement and Grosjean had a retirement. Refreshingly, though.
The thing with Haas, I got so confused because I genuinely believed that Magnussen had retired. So when he was getting wheeled back into the pit lane, I was like, it's the end of the road for Magnussen. And then I was like, hold on, Magnussen is still in the race. So he was just driving around behind Grosjean. And then at some random point, Grosjean was just out. But we got no information on this whatsoever. I literally just looked at the timing board thing and it just said Grosjean out. And I was like, well, when did this happen? Why is no one giving me a replay? Why is no one giving me any information as to what went down? I don't know if I fell asleep at this point or if this information just never was received or given to me. But I don't know what the hell happened to Grosjean. And I don't know how Magnussen got back into the race after just breaking down in the pit lane. I'm so confused.
It was a Christmas miracle for Magnussen. It was one of those occasions where the stars aligned and he was able to have a second crack. But sorry, I'm just reading something that Beth commented. That Roman tried to give us a safety car, but there wasn't enough gravel. He tried. Okay, he was driving for change as he usually does.
Driving for change.
And he just couldn't make it happen for us this time. But he's still, as is tradition for Grosjean, retired. We don't know why, so it's still to be determined what happened with Romain Grosjean, but he wasn't with us at the end of the race at the finish line. Alfa Romeo had a
brilliant qualifying.
They had great qualifying, and then literally the soonest potential moment that it could have gone downhill for them, it went downhill because Antonio Giovinazzi put it in the wall in the installation lap. Not even the formation lap. A la Max Verstappen, as he was driving out of the pits, he had an accident. And I think that sort of put pay to his race. I'm not going to lie. So...
No, as well, like Beth woke me up. I'll give a shout out to Beth. She literally called me to wake me up. And she was like, can I fill you in on what's gone down already? And she went, Gio crashed on the installation lap. And I was just like, no, you have to be joking, but you have to be joking. She was like, George crashed as well, and I was like, no, you're lying to me. All of this has happened. Like, why was the beginning of the race just setting us up for the absolute chaos that was about to occur?
Yeah, like Williams as well, they were struggling the whole race. Like George was actually quite cross at the end of the race because he thought he didn't have a nice time. Let's just basically say that. He wasn't living his best life. He wasn't, in the zenith of his own ability. It was a bit of a struggle. And again, like Beth is really appearing a lot in this podcast. I don't know why, but the thing is, imagine you were Beth and gambled on the fact that George Russell was firstly going to get into Q3. And I don't know what she thought was going to happen with George in the race, but let's just say he was not in the points. He did not make it even close to the points, and neither Williams did, to be honest. But at least, George made an attempt where Latifi was... Yeah. I know what Latifi was doing. Latifi was, living his best life in Formula 3.
I was so confused. Like, I think Latifi's got a lot better over the season. But it was like, at one point, he was 40 seconds behind. He hadn't pitted or anything, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you this far behind? And then it was just like he was down a lap, and I was like, you've been lapped and we're on like lap 10. How have you done this? Like, how? I don't understand.
Maybe he's just not like one of the best wet weather driver. He's like Charles.
The best? He's not on the radar anywhere. I could have driven in the wet better than he did.
Shame.
Okay, like maybe not. Maybe not.
He was struggling. Like, I think the conditions didn't suit him at all. He is, at the end of the day, the least experienced driver on the grid still. So maybe it was just one of those races where he didn't have the tools in his toolbox to deal with what was happening. Or maybe... Sorry. I'm sorry, Beth. It's just cracking me up. Latifi is the opposite. Latifi is the opposite of a fish, you're right. What is the opposite of a fish? Latifi is a camel. He's a camel. He's dry. He's dry. He's steady. He gets where he needs to be, but more often than not, he doesn't get there the quickest, but he gets there. Similar to this season where, George is more often than not faster, but George has an accident every now and again, and Latifi, he's always there finishing the race.
Latifi has been a lot more consistent, I'll say, at actually, finishing the race in high position. Like, I feel like he's very tortoisey. Tortoise, slow and steady wins the race, because he's got more 11th place finishes than George does, so he's actually ahead in the championship. So I won't slate Latifi too much, because he's not doing a bad job, even though today was not good.
Today wasn't good. No, it wasn't. And on that note, Steph, let's except if I've missed the team, but I don't think we've missed the team.
No, we've done everyone.
Move on to the most exciting segment of the TF1 show, and that is the awards that we hand out at the end of every race weekend. So, Steph, I hope you're ready with some good nominations. Let's get into the first award, which is the Pastor Maldonado Award for most dunderheaded deed. So who do you think did the stupidest thing during this race weekend?
He just was spinning left, right, and centre. I can't give it to anyone else.
I think that's a good argument. I mean, I'm inclined to say Bottas as well. I'm going to be contrarian just because I want another suggestion. I want to say Charles for his, he did all the hard work. He did all the hard work for 59 laps. And then in the last big braking zone, he locked a wheel.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
He should have just been careful. I think he was riding high. He was literally going, he's overtaken Alex, Max, Seb, Carlos. He's overtaken Perez. He is literally from P12 to P2 living his best life, and he forgot to brake. And
how do you forget to brake in F1?
I know, on the last lap, it's not like he didn't brake there 59 times before, and he forgot to brake, and that's why I want to give Charles the Bastinaldo Maldonado Award for most underheaded deed, because it was so close and yet so far.
Fairs.
All right, so the next one is the Lewis Hamilton #Blessed Award for luckiest driver.
Oh. Can I give that one to Leclerc?
You can.
I'm going to give it to Leclerc. He was very lucky with the strategy.
I think that's
it worked
a good point.
In his favour. It worked really well in his favour. That's what got him where he needed to be.
I really think so as well. I want to, again, keep it in-house in Ferrari. I want to say Seb.
Okay.
Because my boy Seb got a podium. And
he did.
And Charles, just because Charles couldn't hit the brake pedal. So, I mean, look, he would have had a good... He would have had a good performance regardless of whether he made the podium or not. But like that was just the icing on the cake, getting that podium. So I'm not going to go with Seb, but I do think maybe Steph, you're right with Charles, and people are going to be very cross because I do think Charles had a good performance, but Ferrari basically played strategy gamble with him. They were like, you know what, Charles is P15, can't get worse than this. Let's give it a try, and it worked out both times. So, yeah, Charles, a double winner already at the TF1 Awards. He's cleaning up. And then, so let's move on to the last one, which is the Nico Hulkenberg Podium Award for Unluckiest Driver. Who do you think was really unlucky during this race?
Super unlucky. Who was super unlucky? Was there anyone that was super unlucky?
I'm going to say Ocon.
I was just thinking that because he was yeeted at the beginning.
P3. He started P7 and he was P3 at the end of the first corner, and he was just minding his own business on the outside.
Oh, I'm going to go with Stroll. Distance. That makes sense. Sorry. I'm going with Lance Stroll. He was unlucky.
Okay, fine. He was unlucky. No, Lance Stroll was unlucky. I mean, he did everything he had to, and then the tires just didn't work. Similar to Max, similar to Alex. Couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Lance Stroll.
But I do like Ocon. That is a good one.
I do think Ocon deserves a bit of credit, just like a little bit. And I know I have a lot of haters in the comments. I can see them getting angry with me defending Ocon. But he did have a good start and he did drive a good race, but I do think Lance Stroll was probably our unluckiest driver today.
Yeah.
My condolences, Lance, and hopefully Bahrain will go better. Doubt it will, but we will keep the faith. And that, Steph, is everything and anything about the Turkish Grand Prix. So I don't know, maybe if you have a couple of thoughts as to how Bahrain's going to go. Do you think we're going to get another surprise podium? Do you think we're going to have a bit of a mess? Or is it going to be another Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen?
These next 3 weekends are going to be the most boring races of 2020. Facts.
I'm sorry. A season with Circuit de Catalunya on it.
I'm sorry, Abu Dhabi is going to be worse. I really like Bahrain. I love Bahrain. I think it's a good track. I really, really enjoy it. But I do think we're going to go back, and Mercedes is going to be back to its usual dominant selves. So it's going to be, Ham, Bot, and Verstappen behind them. So I do think that it's going to be a little less interesting, modelled up. We're going to Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, so the weather is already going to be less unpredictable. So we're probably, and by probably, almost certainly not going to have rain. So that won't be a factor. And I'm not saying we need rain for a good race, but there is already an element of unpredictability. So this weekend was so unpredictable as well because we had the rain and that made the track so slippy. But we're not going to have that. So I don't know how I feel about them. I think they're not the best ones to close the season on. I do like Bahrain, but I wouldn't want to be ending the season with it. And all right, Elliot's just told me that we had rain at Abu Dhabi 2 years ago. So I apologise. We could have rain. I apologise to everyone. There might be rain.
In a hypothetical world, there could be rain at Abu Dhabi. The probability is greater than 0 for there to be rain at Abu Dhabi. But
Abu Dhabi's not the best race, so I'm not. No. I've just gone off about how much I hate the next 3 races, but I do think that we've had all of our excitement and we've been absolutely spoiled. But I think we're going to have a boring race because we're overdue a boring race.
That's true. However, I do think Bahrain can throw a good race in terms of I think it's going to be Merc ahead, Red Bull second, but Renault I think is going to be back on form at a track like
I agree
like Bahrain. Renault versus McLaren versus Ferrari versus Racing Point. I think the midfield is going to be really, really fun to watch. And you can overtake at Bahrain. So that should be good as well. So I'm holding out hope for the traditional Bahrain track. I think the oval track is going to be, not the oval track. The oval track is going to be.
Oval track?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Abu Dhabi is going to be a disaster, but luckily all of the championships have already been decided. So we can I think what we need to do is just have like a massive watch along and get drunk while we watch Abu Dhabi. Maybe that's down for that. Interesting.
Except I've never drunk before because I am holy.
Fair enough. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, Steph, people in the comments, that is the episode for today. Thank you so much for joining, Steph. It was so much fun having you on. Really had a good chat. I think hopefully we entertained everyone watching and everyone that's still going to watch and listen. And just to reiterate the admin, please leave a comment if you agree or disagree with us. Do you think Nicholas Latifi is the opposite of a fish? If you do, tell us in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel and go to Steph's channel and subscribe as well. I'll be back next week with another fun little episode. Bye, everybody.